Good morning and welcome back to my 1984 Goldwing Aspencade GL1200. This is the third video of three. I don't know if you've seen the first two. The first one was removing the carbs from the bike. Second one was stripping and cleaning the carbs. And then this one is going to be reinstalling the carbs back on the bike. There's the carbs all clean and sitting on a pillow, ready to go back on the bike. And here's the empty gap that it's going to go into. If you watched my first video of taking the carbs off, I mentioned undoing these two bolts on both sides, but later in the video I said that they didn't need to come off. So if you did undo those like I did, first thing to do is to make sure you've bolted those back down and nice and tight. Before I do anything else, what I'm going to do, I'm going to give all this engine a bit of a clean down first before I start putting stuff back on. Okay, so I've given the engine a bit of a clean down, ready for the carbs to go back on. So the first job this morning, this hose here, just reconnect that on there like that, like so. Next thing, just check to make sure everything can be moved out of the way, because when you do start to slide the carbs back in, you don't want anything protruding and stopping you getting in. I should say it is February, it has been cold, the carbs have been off the bike for a couple of days, so I have put the battery on charge, simply because having drained all the fuel off, it may take a bit of turning over before the fuel pumps through, so I want a good nicely charged battery before I start. Okay, I've used just a little bit of string on here just to hold everything up out of the way while I try and feed this, start trying to feed this through. See how easy it goes. Okay, that's not going in too easy, so what I'm going to do just to make it easier is fold these up the opposite way, try and make it a little bit narrower. There we go. Okay, now with these turned up, it does feed in a lot easier. I'm not going to push it all the way through at the moment. Just get it into about there. That's it. Okay, with it pushed in about that far, first thing we need to do is reconnect the clutch cable, choke cable onto this side. So I'll do that bit next. Okay, so you'll see I've got the end of clutch cable, choke cable put in, and I've got it clamped down on the clamp as well. Next job is to reconnect the accelerator cables. So they're going to come round, bolt, these two holes going to bolt back onto there, two ends back into the reel there. Okay, this is all now back on. I have to admit it wasn't the easiest of jobs. It's probably taken me 15-20 minutes. Indeed, halfway through I walked away, had a cup of tea and come back again. Second time it seemed to go a bit easier. Could have made it a little bit easier by slackening all the tension off, but I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to alter any of the adjustments. But that's all on now, so if I turn the throttle cable, you'll see that's working quite happily. Next thing to do, you'll see this small tube under here. Next thing to do is to connect this pipe, which you may not be able to see too well. It comes underneath, so that pipe needs to push back on to that metal pipe there. Okay, that wasn't the easiest of jobs, but you'll see now that that hose is now back onto the tube. Okay, a little note here, when I started to push this through I didn't realise the air tube had caught behind the accelerator cable, so it pushed the air tube right through as well to the other side. So I've had to pull it back out again just to get that tube back out. So be careful you don't push that through at the same time. Now this is all loose, now ready basically to slide over and bolt down in place. What we need to do next, of course, is get the O-rings back in the ports and get them bolted down either side. Okay, so very carefully place the O-ring back in. If it doesn't stay in on its own, you can use a little bit of grease just to hold it in, but this is fine. I've just give this a very quick clean down with a piece of very fine emery cloth, sandpaper, whatever you like to call it. Turn that over, down, get that one lined up as well, and then for the moment I'm just going to get these bolts in here very loosely, just to literally hold it in place. That one doesn't want to screw in. A bit of a wobble. Okay, the back one for some reason doesn't want to screw in, but it will do. There we go, that's caught. $10mm socket on these, we'll get that down. Not going to do these up tight, I just literally want to clamp it in place. As soon as I get any tension on that, I'm going to stop. There you go. And same on this one. There you go. I've already got the O-ring in this, so I'm going to put the 2 bolts in this one next. Okay, so that's all 4 bolts, just not even pinched tight, they're just in there, just to hold. I've not done these bands up yet, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to go and do the other side, exactly the same as I've done here. Okay, so all 4 bolts are now on this side as well, again only loosely tightened. What I'm going to do now, don't want to over tighten these bolts, so I'm just going to use a 10mm spanner to literally just basically do them hand tight and hand tight only. Once you've gone around and got all 4 tightened down, we can then tighten the bands up because we know these are all in place. Okay, next job is to reconnect the fuel line to the back of the fuel pump as I hit the camera there. So there you go, that's back on, and just make sure that's tight. I prefer to do this with a screwdriver rather than a socket. You can get a socket on there, but I don't like to over tighten them. Okay, back around the other side of the bike. Last job to do is to reconnect the aeros, like it will go on. There we go, that's on. So that basically is the carbs now back on the bike and ready to rock and roll. Okay, a couple more things I've got to do just before I start her up. Obviously reconnect the crash bar, reconnect the water pump housing on the radiator, got a new O-ring for that, refill with water, and then yeah, put the air filter back on and fire her up. So I'll do all that and come back when it's done. Okay, yeah, operating the camera by hand now. Right, so we've got the crash bar put back on, got the covers put back on, we've got the HT leads put back on both sides, radiators back on, connected, all the air filters back on, and I've filled it up just with plain water for the minute. I haven't put anti-freeze in, thinking get her started, make sure she runs. so as not to waste antifreeze, and I can just drain it off and put antifreeze in when I know it's up and running. Okay, here we go for the initial startup after the carbs haven't been taken off, cleaned and put back on. I'm going to open the garage doors just to let any fumes out. Okay, let's see how she does. No editing, this is straight first startup. Good start. Doesn't normally do that. Okay, here we go, let's see how she goes. Let her pump some fuel through. This is why I had the battery on charge. Okay, so that's the carbs taken off, cleaned, stripped and cleaned, put back on, and yeah, she started, so all good. Hope this video's been of help to somebody.